and welcome to the Heel Turn podcast for the week of August 11th, 2013. I am your host, Big Al. With me, as always, is...
Nick, the Shopmaster McGee.
Whatever.
Oh, whatever, my butt.
Anyways, today we're going to make it short and sweet. We're just going to do a... preview of SummerSlam for the WWE and our exclusive interview with
indie superstar Ricky Reyes. It was an incredible interview, folks, and I hope you're enjoying when you hear it later on in our podcast. But to start things off, let's preview WWE SummerSlam. And Big Al, I'm going to start with the very top of the list. John Cena versus Daniel Bryan for the WWE Championship, with the caveat that happened last Monday on Raw, with Triple H being a special referee. Your initial thoughts right off the top of your head.
It's going to end dirty.
You know what? This match was so great. It was so cool. Until, whatever reason, I don't know, the WWE and the writers got cold feet, but they decided to add Triple H to this match, which, for whatever reason, they come up with the fact, well, this match is going to get out of control. How's it going to get out of control with Daniel Bryan and John Cena? The match that's going to be out of control is CM Punk and Brock Lesnar. That's who needs a special referee or an enforcer, not this match. I was looking forward to a classic 30-40 minute wrestling match, but it says Triple H got to be involved. If Triple H doesn't become a factor and insert himself into this feud,
you know he will.
That I know, but if by the grace of God, if Triple H just don't get himself involved and think that he's the third major player in this match and just keep it just between Daniel Bryan and Cena, we're going to have a great match. But I just hate the fact that they got cold feet with Daniel Bryan.
Well, you know what
they just put Triple H in.
Here's what it probably is. It's probably just there to enhance his feud with Vince.
I guess, but could you done that without Triple H being a special referee?
I'm talking about Triple H and Vince's feud.
I know, I get that, but could it have been done without Trip being a special referee, though? Could Vince and Trip just be on the outside of the ring, and they choose the guy that they want to cheer for, or whatever? Vince McMahon don't care about neither guy, but Triple H actually leaned more towards Daniel Bryan being WWE champion from a storyline standpoint. It just... I'm hoping everybody out there here to the podcast understand where I'm coming from. This thing's going to suck now. I'm still looking forward to the match, but it's just that little brown spot of doo-doo on the match that Triple H is a special guest referee. I'm sorry.
To borrow a quote from Kevin Nash, Triple H is the turd in the punch bowl.
That's for you, Kevin. That's for you.
Anyways,
our next match, the World Heavyweight Championship, Roberto Del Rio versus Christian. Now, last Friday on SmackDown, they tore the house down. Christian won cleanly. But what you think, Big Al? How this?
I want Christian to go because I want him to have one more title run. Because I think he's going to be done pretty soon.
Same here. I got nothing else to add to that. I really do think Captain Charisma deserves one more title shot, one more run. I think he's in his last stage in WWE as an active competitor.
Yeah. Let's talk the Divas match.
Yeah, this Divas match got added in, and believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, this match been building on the Totally Divas reality show. Quotations on reality show. Brie Bella versus Natalya.
I don't care.
You know what? I care about women's wrestling, but it's kind of slap in the face of reality TV that this match came from reality TV. So you're trying to tell me as a fan there's real tension between these two? But
hey, just keep in mind that the whole Total Divas had their taping months ago, so they had the idea of where this was going months ago.
Or was this a last minute thing? They figured, let's have these two do a match. Because Nikki Bella can't wrestle. She's still recovering from an injury. So... I mean,
Nikki, isn't that the Daniel Bryan's?
I thought Nikki was the one that. No, Nikki's dating John Cena.
Oh,
Brie is dating Daniel Bryan. Brie and Daniel Bryan actually live together.
Right on.
They actually live together, but Anyway, I'm like Big Al. No one really cares about this match. And Natalya is one of the best wrestlers, arguably, in the entire wrestling industry. And she basically go destroy this chick, put her in a sharpshooter. She'll tap out. That begins the match. That basically will be the bathroom break of this pay-per-view.
Really? I thought it was going to be the match that jerks the curtain.
I hope not. That would kill viewership if it jerks the curtain. Now, I will give you a match I think that's going to jerk the curtain. Caitlyn and Dolph Ziggler versus Big E Langston and AJ Lee. Mixed tag match. Not intergender tag match, but a mixed tag match. Which means the men versus the men, the women versus the women. Big Al, your initial take on this?
I think it should be intergender.
It'd be more interesting. Just imagine, Caitlyn going up against Big E Langston or Dolph Ziggler going up against
Big E
AJ.
loses.
Yeah, Big E's going to lose. But this feud comes around in full circle in some ways.
And I still say that they're pushing AJ and Big E apart, and it's going to just culminate either at SummerSlam or the following Raw.
Well, if you watch Raw this past Monday, Big E Langston and AJ mysteriously lost to the Great Khali and Hornswoggle. What a way to build them up for their mixed tag match by having them just lose last Monday. Even though there was a botch in the match between AJ and Natalya, but still, it didn't do nothing for this match whatsoever. I'm predicting that Ziggler and Caitlyn's going to win this match, but really in hindsight, AJ and Big E need this win because Ziggler has been doing nothing but outsmarting both of these guys in the last few weeks.
It's not hard.
I know, it's not hard. Next match on the card. I'm trying to think what's the next match on the card is right off the top of my head. Oh, Damian Sandow versus Cody Rhodes. The Money in the Bank briefcase is now on the line. That was the rumors going around on the internet that the briefcase was supposed to be on the line, but I guess it's not. But did you see Damian Sandow's nice little brown briefcase?
It looks like chocolate.
He displayed last Monday. Yes, it looked like chocolate. I feel like eating it. But this
Spoken like a true fat man.
I know. But I have to say, this is probably the most well-built.
We smell our own.
Yes. I say this is the most well-built mid-card feud.
Yes.
Probably in a while.
And you know what? It's been brewing for over a year. Because those guys...
Over a year? Really? You think so?
They were friends for over a year.
Yeah, they were, but it was no tension, though. It was no tension.
know, but you knew a feud was coming because that's how they run things.
Yeah, I mean, ever since Money in the Bank, even before Money in the Bank, Rose Scholars were sort of like gone their separate ways, but still find a way to team up. But I'm really going to enjoy this match, and that match could potentially jerk the curtain.
Actually, I thought it was going to be the Rob Van Dam, Damien's.
We're about to get to that match. I'm extremely disappointed that match is going to be in the pre-show, the 1 hour kickoff show. It should be on pay-per-view. It really should. Me personally, this is a very short segment of booking. I will move the Brie Bella and Natalya match to the pre-show and move Van Dam and Ambrose to the main show. Because Van Dam and Ambrose is going to steal the freaking show.
Yeah, the crowd's going to be so burnt out.
I know.
They're going to be...
That technically is the first match of the whole night, and the fans going to be burnt out. You're going to see it when the pay-per-view goes on air. The fans are burnt out like, well, we saw the match of the night already. And that's before we got to the top of the card. Oh, and also, saving the best for last, I know we skipped around. We forgot about this one on top of the card, which I do apologize to both of these competitors. CM Punk versus Brock Lesnar. I'm looking more forward to this match than Daniel Bryan and Cena right now. Simply because Triple H is special referee now, I'm more looking forward to Punk versus Lesnar.
I'll be honest, I could care less about either one.
You could what?
About who wins what?
The Beast versus the Best? You don't care?
I don't.
Why?
Because I just don't.
Oh my god. This is going to be a slobber knocker in the words of Jim Ross. These two, behind the scenes, they're good friends. And the last couple of weeks, the feud been so physical between both these guys. It's going to be a hard-nosed match. I cannot give you a clear-cut prediction who will win. Technically, on paper, you should give it to Lesnar. But also on the flip side, CM Punk needs a major victory on pay-per-view. So I really don't know who's going to come out on top in this match. I'm just going to sit back.
The crowd.
The crowd's going to love it. I'm just going to sit back and enjoy this match. We're going to talk more about this match after SummerSlam or our post-SummerSlam edition of the Heel Turn podcast.
Oh,
but
there is something that we said that we were going to do.
We're saving that for next month, before Night of Champions, remember?
Oh, okay.
We're saving that for Night of Champions. We're not going to let the cat out of the bag. But I think the fans of the Heel Turn podcast is really going to like the segment that we're going to create next month. You're going to like it. It's going to be the episode before Night of Champions. You're going to like it, everyone. You're really going to enjoy it. You really do. But Big Al, your quick prediction. Van Dam or Ambrose on the kickoff show?
Ambrose.
Okay, next match. The mixed tag match. Who you got?
Me, because I'm not going to watch it.
Brie versus Natalya.
Again, me, because I'm not going to watch it.
Next match. Punk versus Lesnar.
Lesnar.
Okay. Del Rio versus Christian. Cena versus Bryan.
Bryan with a dirty win.
Bryan with a dirty win? I'm going with Bryan.
No. I'm sorry. Cena with a dirty win and somebody with a dirty win and title doesn't change hands.
Sandow versus Rhodes.
Rhodes.
Alright, my quick match predictions. I got Bryan, Christian. I'm torn between Punk and Lesnar. I'm gonna say a draw. I'm being a coward. I'm saying a draw. Damian Sandow will beat Rhodes. I'm giving it to Ziggler and Caitlyn to win their match. Brie Bella will upset over Natalya. And Rob Van Dam will defeat Dean Ambrose and become the United States Champion on the kickoff show.
Okay, you sure about that?
Yeah, I'm positive about that. I'm sticking to it. If I'm wrong, you could go on Facebook.com/The Heel Turn Podcast and you can bury me on it. And also you go.
I'll bring a shovel.
Yes, and you could go on our Twitter page as well, Heel Turn Podcast at Twitter.
Well, without further ado, we're going to turn it over to our exclusive interview with Ricky Reyes. Take it away, Ricky.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Heel Turn Podcast. I am the co-host, Nick the Shopmaster McGee, along with our main host, Big Al.
What up?
Today, we're doing an exclusive telephone interview with former ROH Tag Team Champion, multiple-time champion in various independent promotions. He famously wrestled in Mexico in the CMLL. He wrestled in New Japan Pro Wrestling. He has a cup of coffee in TNA. He made a brief appearance in World Wrestling Entertainment. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce to you the man himself, the original Rockweiler, Ricky Reyes. Ricky, welcome to the Heel Turn Podcast.
Thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Appreciate it very much, sir.
Yes, very much.
All right, to get started, sir, I just want to ask you, Ricky, just right offhand, who really inspired you to get into the wrestling business?
I mean, as a kid, we all grew up watching, Hulk Hogan or whatever, wrestling that was on TV at the time. I mean, I just really was drawn to it, and enjoyed watching it. Me and my dad spent a lot of time together watching it, and I think that's kind of what inspired me a little bit, was like how much enjoyment it kind of brought to him and I together.
Mm-hmm.
My dad was pretty strict and stern with me and my brother as we grew up, so there wasn't a lot of times where we had like father-sons type moments, except for while watching wrestling. So, that was something we shared, and that was a time where I always think back as a kid, like, were mostly the most enjoyable times as a kid, watching wrestling with my dad and stuff, and he enjoyed it even as a kid himself. He did,
Awesome, Rick. Rick, can you describe your experience being trained by Japanese legend and WWE Hall of Famer Antonio Inoki? Was he one of your trainers when you first broke into the business?
Yeah, actually, I was already a trained pro wrestler.
Okay.
Before I met Inoki. I started in San Bernardino, California with Jesse Hernandez and Bill Anderson. They had a school in San Bernardino, and from there, I went to UPW in on Huntington Beach and met Justin McCauley, who was Ken Shamrock and Don Fry's jiu-jitsu coach, and he also trained a lot of Inoki's fighters and stuff for Antonio Inoki's army that he had of fighters and stuff. So he actually invited me to the New Japan dojo, and that's when Inoki himself would actually come in 2-3 times a week just to work out, and would train with him and stuff, and he would just kind of sit there and work out with us after a while, and then like a lot of the old guys, if you just get them on the ball, they start rolling. So you just kind of ask him questions, what he thinks of today's pro wrestling, and what he thinks is good, what he thinks is bad, and he kind of just would school me on what he thought was good and bad and why. So it was, as you can imagine, an honor and a pleasure to get thrown around by him and then learn from him and kind of look at kind of just listen to what he thinks is good and bad. Like you kind of try to do with everybody that teaches you.
Right. Compare the American style to the Japanese style, because according to some wrestlers, the Japanese style is more physical than the American style of wrestling. Is that true?
Well, I don't know if it's more physical, because all pro wrestling is pretty physical.
Right.
As a whole, it takes its toll. It doesn't matter if you're in Japan or in the U.S. The difference between the two is the psychology, I guess, where the wrestling fans in Japan just appreciate the techniques more and your effort that you give in the ring, more so than they do maybe in the States. Professional wrestling in Japan is still looked at as a sport before entertainment.
Right.
Where in the States, it's largely looked at as entertainment, more than a sport. So, the fans in Japan would tell you at the end of the night, oh, good fight.
Right.
And then they would ask, oh, well, what's your style of fighting? So it's, it's a little bit more demanding as far as your technique is concerned. That's why, Mr. Inoki kind of would advise all the guys that train at the dojo to, train jiu-jitsu and kickboxing, and we'd have coaches come in and teach us all that because we needed to learn the real techniques. And then, a couple years into, everybody started getting really good at it, so he was, trying to explain to us that the only way you can, express that you're going into a real fight is having been in a real fight. So he says, if you go in there to fake a fight, people will shit on you, So, a lot of us just kind of, I did a couple of fights, and, you do what you have to do, you know what I mean? It was all part of, what I wanted to do at the time and stuff like that. But, I had already amateur wrestled in high school and stuff because I wanted to be a pro wrestler. So I kind of had the technique of, wrestling in general kind of down, more so than maybe a lot of other pro wrestlers do, certainly today. So,
Awesome. You got a question you want to ask, Big Al?
Yeah, actually I do a little bit. It's kind of a minor question, but I hear a lot of wrestlers, to really get over in Japan, they have to actually learn the language and to get over with the crowd sometimes. Now, do you speak Japanese? Do you speak Spanish? Are a lot of wrestlers who wrestled in Japan, Mexico, they speak this sort of thing?
I mean, when I'm there, I can kind of understand some things, you know. Obviously, you kind of end up learning it from being there. Like, my first trip to Japan, I spent 30 days there, you know. So, I mean, we actually had, like, a week off in the middle of the month as well. So, I mean, you kind of learn it because you're usually based in Tokyo, so everything is either in Japanese or English, considering English is the second language. So you pick stuff up, yeah. I mean, it's not necessarily, you know, something that they want. You know, they appreciate the fact that you learn the language. And, you know, I think everybody, you know, if you're passionate about what you do, you fall in love with every aspect of it. Like, I love being in Japan, and, you know, I mean, I just love the atmosphere there, and the fans are unbelievable, you know. And the same thing in Mexico City. Like, I don't speak Spanish fluently. My father doesn't speak Spanish, so my mom speaks Spanish, so no one really would speak Spanish in the house.
Right.
So, you know, I wasn't taught like a lot of other people, just kind of growing up. So when I'm in Mexico, I can understand it, you know,
right.
You know, because my mom would speak Spanish to my grandparents and aunts and uncles and stuff, but you know, it's not necessarily, you know, something you need to do now. I think a lot of guys end up doing it because they just enjoy it, you know. I mean, why wouldn't you want to learn it, you know?
Right.
A lot of the Japanese guys, like, if you go to the gym with them and stuff and you conversate with them, they want to know English just like you want to know Japanese, you know?
Right.
So you end up kind of teaching each other things, and then it's always funny just to teach them things that you would find amusing to hear them say, so
right.
That's always fun.
Exactly. Ricky, you had some memorable moments in Ring of Honor. You were part of the Rockwilders with Homicide, and you had some memorable matches with the Briscoe brothers, with CM Punk and Colt Cabana. Can you describe to me your most memorable moment in Ring of Honor during your tenure there?
I mean, I enjoyed very much wrestling there. I mean, I wish I could have did a lot more
right.
before I was finished up, but, you know, I guess, a lot of the matches, you know, were really good. I mean, can't have a bad match with the Briscoes. You know, I guess a lot of the fun times is that feeling you get knowing that everyone's kind of working for the same goal.
Right.
Like, you know, there was times when we do, you know, Friday, Saturday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or whatever, you know, and it was such a deep locker room with so much talent there. You know, you would be the opening match one night, you'd main event the next night, you know, and then you'd be mid card the third night or something, you know,
right.
because it was that, you know, deep, you know. I mean, when your second or third match is American Dragon versus Alex Shelley, you know, and then it's headlined by Samoa Joe versus Doug Williams, you know, it's like you can pretty much throw the Rottweilers, you know, against the Briscoes or BJ Whitmer, Dan Moffin, anywhere, you know, and it was, I mean, you know, it was always fun. As far as the wrestling was easy, it's easier than people think. I mean,
right.
You know, you end up working, you know, wrestling a certain level every night with those guys, and you know, you just kind of, you know, it's the same thing in Japan. Like when, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, it's physically demanding, and it's like, yeah, it is more so maybe than other places, but once you get on tour and stuff and your body gets conditioned to it, you know, it's you know, you're on point, you know, with everybody else. So I mean, you know, my whole time there was fun. I probably remember the most, like, I think it was in Elizabeth, New Jersey, the Rec Center. Is that what it was called?
I believe
so.
Like,
I think the weekend Liger came in was cool, just because.
Oh, Justin Liger.
The atmosphere was crazy. Like, it was just cool. You know, sitting in the groups. We had just wrestled, so we came to the back, and then Liger was about to go out, and I think he was teaming with Brian against Joe, or teaming with Joe against Brian and Key or somebody, like, I don't know. I just knew that we were running in at the end and beating everybody up, so we were like kind of sitting there, and it was just cool to be in the back. And you know, we've seen him in Japan, New Jersey for the ROH crowd to go out there as he would be when we wrestled them like in the Dome and stuff in Tokyo.
Right.
So it's like it was cool to see him get amped up and the crowd go nuts as soon as his music hit. You know, it's just one of those feelings where you're like, wow. Same thing with like Kobashi. You know, and,
Right.
I mean, when he came out, it was like in New York against Joe. I mean,
Kobashi was a great
you have
talent.
goosebumps. You know.
Right.
Yeah.
Ricky, how did WWE approach you about your tryout match?
Well, a year before I went down there, people from Florida had called me and asked me if I was interested, and I was like, yeah, you know, of course, you know. And then, you know, I had a couple of conversations with some people that were, you know, getting talent for. Apparently, Triple H had went down.
Mm-hmm.
The story I got was, you know, he was questioning some of the trainers, like, well, why are these guys not, like, as good as we expect them to be or something, and
Right.
there was a problem with the person that was booking outside talent to get looked at was looking more for a quote-unquote look than, you know, talent,
Right.
so that all got changed, and then that person was released from their duties, and then, that's when they were like, well, you know, we're going to get you in here and take a look at you.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, all right, cool. And so I just kind of took it, you know, all right, well, we'll see, you know, whatever. And then all of a sudden I started getting some emails and stuff. Hey, you know, can you be at this day for TV? And then that led to, you know, the workouts and stuff with a couple of the TV guys. And,
Right.
you know, I guess everybody was pretty impressed or whatever. And then they took me down to Florida and, you know, I had to try out for the weekend and stuff like that. And that was about it.
Okay. And, Ricky, just want to ask you a question. Why do you think the WWE did not sign you to a developmental contract? Because you're a great talent, you're a great athlete, you wrestle all over the world, you had the experience. I'm just stunned that WWE did not sign you to a developmental contract. Why do you think so?
Well, it's funny because anyone that I talk to can't figure it out either. So,
I mean,
you know,
it's mind-blowing.
I remember being in the back, I want to say it was Rhode Island or something for TV, and a good buddy of mine is Damian Sandow. We were in Puerto Rico together for a year, and I was just talking to him and Santino, and Sandow are good buddies, and Santino walked over, and he was like, did they tell you anything, you know? And I'm like, nah, I mean, you know, they said I was supposed to go to Florida and get looked at or whatever, and he's like, well, that's good, you know, and he even told Sandow, and he's like, I don't know why I don't give him a shot, like, just sign him, and, you know, he's seasoned, he's ready to go, like, what more do you need from a guy, you know? And I was like, I don't know, you know, like, I mean, I don't know, and then you go to Florida, you know, and you think, you know, just being in wrestling for so long, you know, part of me is like, there's a chance, and then the other part of me is like, I think they already got their mind made up. I'm pretty sure they already got their mind made up, so, you know, you're almost kind of like, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't, you know, you just go down there. I couldn't do anything more than what I did, you know, I talked with Regal after, you know, and, you know, he's sitting there baffled, you know, and he's like, I don't know what to tell you. He's like, you know, you do what they tell you, you did it better than everybody else here, you know, they're going to sign this guy and that guy, but it's because they look like this and they're, you know. So, I mean, all I know is I went, I did what I was asked. I know for a fact that I did it better than 99% of the guys that were there.
Right.
And then when it came down to interview time, you know, the panel was like Dusty, Briscoe, Ross, Regal, you know, all the big wigs were sitting there, and you know, they just started asking you all these questions about your life. If they were interested in you, you were up there for a while, and I was up there for a really long time.
Right.
And you know, when it came down to it, I thought in the back of my head, like, how many other times am I going to have these guys in front of me? So, you know, I thought, well, I'm just going to say what's on my mind, and I'm going to tell them the truth, you know. And when it came down to it, you know, Ross was like, well, what, you know, why did it take you so long to get here, and you know, reach out to us to, you know, for a job? And I told him, I said, look, I said I wasn't going to come to the WWE I said, I'm ready to go. You can just throw me right into anything, and then I'll make it work. I said, you guys look at guys like Daniel Bryan and CM Punk and all these guys. I'm cut from the same mold, but there's nothing that they can't do, and that's what you're looking for now. As far as size or whatever, I wish I was 6'6" and 250, but I'm not, So, but I mean, it's up at the end of the day, everyone that was there gave me the green light, and then when it went to office people, I don't know what happened there, so.
Yeah, I mean, as far as when it comes to size, some of the smallest guys in the company right now are the most over, so it can't be size.
It cannot be size, given Daniel Bryan's current success, given CM Punk's success. When you look at Mysterio's success, I mean, it's just
even Seth Rollins.
Even Seth Rollins, exactly. Even though he's a tad bit taller, he's almost like a toothpick. But anyway, but given your size and your experience, it's almost shocking they did not give you a developmental contract. I mean, because I was reading the reports on the internet that they're about to sign you, you're about to head down to developmental, and everything just went silent, almost like radio silence, and you did not get signed. And it's just mind-boggling, Ricky. I just can't understand that.
Well, I mean, like I said, I said my piece, and I did what I did. The other guys from that group got signed, and couldn't be happier for them. And all I can do is keep doing what I'm doing. You know what I mean? Like, I have no control over whoever the final say was.
Right.
All I know is I did everything I was supposed to do, and even the guys that got signed know what I did. You know what I mean? So I mean, there's nothing else I can really do or say. And I'm not going to lose sleep over worrying about what they're thinking, because I've done that years ago when I didn't know. You know what I mean? Like, it was just every day you kill yourself. You'll go crazy. It's not worth it. I'm busy. I'm healthy. There's opportunities out there. I got to worry about what's in front of me. You know what I mean? I can't worry about why this multi-billion-dollar company can't figure out who's what, and then because I mean, you literally go crazy, because then 3 weeks later you see they signed this guy, and you're like, who the fuck is this? You know what I mean? You're like, why is this sloppy mess, hired? And if you take that to bed, you toss and turn all night. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, you can't worry about it, and it takes a while. Don't get me wrong. Like, I've done it. I've stayed up very many nights. But at the end of the day, worrying is like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but it doesn't get you anywhere. So you can't really worry about it. You know what I mean? You just kind of keep. I got 2-3 shows every weekend. I travel a lot. I got to be in the gym 2-3 times a day.
Right.
I mean, I got a lot of stuff on my plate, so I can't worry about that. It's not that important. It'll handle itself. One day I'll be off doing something, and all of a sudden I get a call. Boom. That's how ridiculous they are.
Right. Speaking of your trial match from WWE, I just want to ask you this simple question, Ricky. Who came up with the Brian Edwards name? How did that name came up?
You know what? The guys that give you your names are not, I mean, you may have heard this before, they are not wrestling people.
No, they're not.
No. I couldn't tell you who the guy was. Real skinny little guy, probably got picked on a lot in school. Came up to me, and he was like, hey, you're doing the Ryback segment? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, okay, here's your script. And he hands me this paper, and I'm like, okay. I was like, well, I was like, well, which one am I? And he's like, oh, you're, hold on. So he radios in. He's like, the shorter one, who is he? And, you hear, the shorter one's Brian Edwards. And I was like, he goes, yeah, you're Brian. And I was like, oh, okay. Brian Edwards? And then the guy that was doing it with me, looked at me like, what? And then I was like, yeah, all right, cool, man. Whatever you want, I'll make it happen. So, yeah, like for the spot that we ended up doing, apparently the promo that I was to cut was cut very short, and it was because I was
the little cut I saw on TV was spot on. And I recognized you the moment you picked up the mic. I'm like, that's Ricky Reyes. Oh, my God. And you cut that promo so perfectly. To me, the most over thing in that whole segment was your promo. I really didn't give a two cents about Ryback for a minute. I was just focused on you.
One of the other guys that was with us that day, he went out to the stands, he said, and he was like, he came to the back and goes, man, as soon as you walked out there, the whole section I was standing by was like, oh shit, that's Ricky Reyes. Oh shit, Ricky Reyes is on SmackDown. And I was like, yeah, I'm sure they're probably thinking, oh shit, he's going to come wrestle Ryback. Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, again, there's so much you don't have control over there.
Right.
You know what I mean? And again, like, Sandow just came up to me and he was like, look, man, even Regal was like, you did yourself a favor. And I was like, what do you mean, And he's like, by doing that, but I was like, dude, first off, I don't have an ego like that, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, everyone has an ego to a certain degree, but I'm certainly not going to walk in here and act like, well, I'm an indie guy, I can't do Ryback, you know what I mean? Like, in my mind, I looked at it like this. I should do Ryback because I could make it really good. You know what I mean? Whatever the company needs. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, I'm not going to shy away from it. They were like, hey, can you do the Ryback spot? And I'm like, yeah, of course I will. Why wouldn't I? You know? Be on television? Sure.
Yeah, heck yeah.
No one, if your ego is that much when you're not contracted to them and
right.
you gotta go in there and act like you can't do that, then you'll never make it because, I don't know, they could have made me a dancing poodle on television.
Oh,
and I would have went out there and danced my heart out, whatever.
Thank God we did not see that image on TV. But,
Yeah, right.
but Rick, do you have any indie dates coming up that you want to tell our fans on the Heel Turn podcast about? Anything coming up?
Yeah, a week from today, I'll be in House of Glory in New York, and I believe it's Brooklyn. Amazing Red and Brian XL's wrestling school. They have events there like every other month. So I'll be there teaming with Homicide on that show. And then the next week I have Allentown, Pennsylvania, EPWE in Allentown on Friday, and then CTWE's farewell show in Connecticut, in Bethany, Connecticut on that Saturday. I'll be wrestling Michael Elgin on that event. Yeah, and working for like ECWA and Victory Pro Wrestling in Long Island, New York, where I have my wrestling school.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just kind of all over the place.
Yeah, how is your wrestling school going out there on Long Island, real quickly?
It's going really well, actually. We just signed up like 5 brand new guys, and we had 4 guys that we had been training just this past year start making it to the shows and stuff like that, and starting to wrestle in different areas. So a lot of the guys are coming along really good. I mean, we only get to train on Sundays, but practice is from 4 to about 10 p.m. And I try to cover everything, like psychology, promos, character development, conditioning, always, conditioning. Everything that I tell them to do, I do with them, so they don't see that. I don't like to be that type of guy where, I'm going to tell you to do 100 squats and then not do them with you. Like I do all the training, all the bumping, and, all the drills. Like, if I want something done correctly, I'm going to show you this is how you're going to do it. And I was always taught that a good trainer will explain to you why. If I tell you, hey, do it this way, I'm going to tell you why. If you say, hey, someone told me to do it this way, I'm going to say, explain to me why. Why is that better? At the end of the day, as long as you're doing the technique with the best, that looks visually the best and is the safest for both people, then that's what we push. I've been training these guys for a couple of years now.
Right.
And I used to tell them, people, hey, those are the guys I train. Now I can say, honestly, hey, those are the guys I train with.
Right.
Because now, even though I'm the trainer, a lot of the guys are getting so good, and they're getting out there so much that they're experiencing their own things, you know what I mean? And we get to training, and it's like, like that. And safer things in the ring, I can focus on that. And then we get together and have matches and break down the matches. And, everyone learns from everybody. Even Michael Jordan practices free throws every day. You know what I mean? So.
Awesome, Ricky. If our fans want to reach you on social media, where do they need to go?
On Facebook, and then my Twitter is Ricky Reyes, at Ricky Reyes 01. That's pretty much all I have right now.
Awesome. Ricky, we're just about out of time here. I would love to get you back on this time, talk more about your Wrestling Academy in Long Island, your affiliation with Victory Pro Wrestling.
Oh, yeah.
The next time we get you on, I am just completely fascinated by it. I would love to get you back on, hopefully very, very soon, to talk more about that, sir.
That would be great. Awesome.
All right. Awesome. Thank you very much, Ricky. You are awesome, dude. And I hope to talk...
There is one thing I have been wondering about. How did you like working with Homicide?
Oh, I love it. First time I ever met him was when I got booked for ROH the very first time, and then he came out of PWG a couple times, and Homicide's like the godfather of pro wrestling, so we just him, me, Loki, we all just clicked right away because you just share a passion for this, you know what I mean, and it's funny. You get to a point where you're like, oh man, I'm thinking about quitting and stuff, and he's been on that path, and I just tell him all the time, shut up, you're not gonna quit, and then we sit back there and joke, we watch you see a clip of Mil Mascaris wrestling or something, he's 1,000 years old, and I'm like, yo D, that's you trying to do your tope when you're 94 years old, and oh man, I gotta catch old man Homicide tonight. But I mean, he's just he's a huge inspiration to me. It's helped me out on so many things. My time in ROH towards the end, it wasn't all that pleasant for me, but he kept me level-headed, and it just kind of kept me there for the time and kind of explained to me why and stuff like that. But I look to him for advice. I ask guys that helped train me in the beginning, like Chris Daniels and those guys. Those are my go-to guys. If D's not available, which he always is for me, I'm fortunate enough. But same thing with Chris. He helped me so much and still does to this day. There isn't a time where I think, man, I'm a little confused on this, that I can't just pick up the phone and hey Chris, as busy as this guy is, he's like, yeah, what's up? Everything all right? And just ask for advice. You know what I mean? So people.
Anything else, Big Al?
I think I'm good.
All right, Ricky, once again, I want to say thank you for doing this interview. The best of luck to you, and we definitely will be hitting you up again to talk more about your Wrestling Academy out on Long Island, your affiliation with Victory Pro Wrestling. Thank you so much for spending time with us here on the Heel Turn Podcast.
Yeah, totally, dude.
Cool. Thanks for having me, guys. Can't wait to do it again.
All right. Awesome. You have yourself a good one, sir, and we'll catch you some other time.
Definitely. All right, I'll talk to you guys soon.
All right. Bye.
Take care. Bye.
That was an awesome interview.
Alrighty then. Well, I guess that does it for this episode of the Heel Turn Podcast for the week of August the 11th, 2013. I am your host, Big Al.
And I am Nick the Shotmaster McGee.
Alright, you have a good week, and get out of my ring.